All right, it is Tuesday, and I am behind the table with Alyssa Farah Griffin. Hello, Alyssa.
Hello, Brian.
All right, we had a really great show today, I thought.
Such a good show, yeah.
We had Arnold Schwarzenegger was here, the Governor.
The Governor.
This was very exciting. Of course, the former governor of California, on top of being one of the biggest movie stars of all time. I mean, there's no other way to put it. What did you think about, so first of all, it was so much fun because this is somebody we can talk politics with and then just have a lot of fun with. What did you think about what he had to say about how things have been playing out in his former state, California?
Yeah, he's like an all-time favorite guest. Last time we had him, it was a blast too, and he can talk about absolutely anything, so that makes for a good view.
It's also really fun to see him and Whoopi together. I thought that was great.
And that he does he'll like recite his lines, which some actors won't do.
I have to say, so we'll talk about California in a second, but during the commercial break, so he did his lines.
That was off air. Sorry.
No, he did some of his lines, and without me realizing it, I'm apparently on camera like woohooing when he said, "I'll be back." I was not aware of that in the moment, but my mother texted me. But on the commercial break, he literally answered audience questions and did every iconic line from every movie he's ever did.
And he listened to audience members do their version of his lines, which is even better.
He did "Hasta la vista, baby."
He did "It's not a tumor."
He did "Stick Around." I mean, it was unbelievable. It was the happiest I've ever been.
I like wanted to turn to him and like tell him what movies I loved, but I'm like, there's too many to name. He's literally so many good ones.
We didn't even get to like Twins. But I mean, there's so many great Arnold movies.
But no, I'm from California originally. He was my governor when I was a kid. And I mean, he just feels like a different time in politics.
Yeah.
In a way that makes me kind of sad, where like he was a moderate centrist Republican who got elected statewide in the blue state of California. And I think he brings a very sort of pragmatic, uniting mindset to how he approaches politics. And the way he answered that question was very much that, which, listen, he's been on our show before. He's been critical of Trump when it called for it. I'm sure he has disagreements with Gavin Newsom, but he kind of elevated it and brought it back to this is how it's supposed to work.
Right.
Which is the way it's supposed to work, as he said, is the local government, the state, the local municipalities, the state National Guard, the governor, the local officials should coordinate the response with the federal government. And as he noted, the problem was the federal government didn't try to coordinate back. And I liked hearing him talk about that's the way it should have worked in that regard. And then even on immigration, because I feel like the right uses it as a political football that rallies their base and it gets folks animated because people do care about having a secure border. They do care about, are there people who committed crimes in this country? Or if you have an open border, could God forbid terrorists get in? But you solve the problem of our immigration system by fixing it. And no one seems to want to do it. It's been 30 plus years since we had real immigration reform. And I just love that he spoke to how important immigrants have been to the fabric of America. Right. And there's it feels like, if there was a will, there's a way. And it just feels like immigration's become this partisan football that makes the idea of doing some kind of major immigration reform seems like not even a shot in hell right now.
Yeah, I mean, and again, he accented the fact that when he came over here, it was important for him to do everything the right way.
Yeah.
And Whoopi and everyone at the table has said many times that criminals should be deported.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's something that I feel like I feel like it gets lost in the conversation that's something I think everyone agrees on.
Carly and I, my producer and I, always have the stat. I mean, the statistic is something like 97% of people believe that, and the 3% probably like didn't register an answer. Everyone agrees if you've committed, especially violent crimes, but if you've committed crimes in this country, you should be deported after you have your day in court.
Right.
But I also liked that he spoke to the immigrant experience, but also just the pleasure of being an immigrant in this country and the honor that it can be. And he's kind of the sort of poster child for like the American dream as an immigrant. I mean, one of the most famous men on the planet. He had a line at one point. He's like, "It's easy to have success, like become a movie star and marry a Kennedy," which is like funny. But I mean, this is somebody who I watched his the documentary about him. I mean, he came from super humble beginnings. He worked his way up. He sold himself. He honed his craft. And I resonated with that. I mean, my family, I'm a second generation immigrant, but like my family, we learn new things every day, by the way, because we don't know a lot of the history of our family. But I just remember like our family came over from Damascus, as the story goes, because apparently I'd always thought we were originally from Lebanon. We're from Damascus, according to recent family updates, but came here and just wanted to work. And my grandfather allegedly wanted to be he wanted to trade Arabian horses. That didn't work out, so he opened an ice cream shop, and they became restaurateurs, and that was their American dream. And just these little things that steps people take in the ways they build their community, they invest in them, they become part of the fabric of American society. I think it's beautiful, and I liked hearing him celebrate how great it is to be an immigrant in America.
I'm excited.
How great it should be, I should say.
I want to know more about the ice cream shop, and do we have access to it now?
No longer, but it was like one of our very proud family history moments.
Oh, I love that. All right, let's jump into some of these political headlines that have been going wild in the last week. Following this horrific news about Minnesota, the lawmakers that were killed and 2 seriously injured. You all talked about Senator Tina Smith confronting Senator Mike Lee about his social media posts on the matter. You've called out Mike Lee yourself for his post, saying we wouldn't let our kids react to tragedy this way, but a United States senator can do it for clicks. I mean, it does seem like everywhere there's different rules for what's happening in politics and what we expect from civilized behavior from each other. You've worked with him. How should he be responding to this? How would you be advising him?
I think we're kind of past the point of where good advice from staff would fix anything. I think it would be simply to take it down, to offer a public apology, and to, at the right time, and I'd give it a B, offer condolences directly to the family. And the way I said it on the show, because this stuck with me, because I don't know Mike Lee well. I've been in meetings with him. I've worked with him in some capacities. But, 10 years ago, or just under 10 years ago, he was the conservative at the floor of the Republican National Convention trying to change the rules to block Donald Trump from becoming the Republican nominee because he said he was going to step on the Constitution. He could become an authoritarian. He pitched himself as this sort of man of conviction, this constitutional conservative. And he's also reportedly, allegedly, a devout Mormon, a person of faith. And so watching, once he started a few years ago, this Based Mike Lee account. So he's got his official Twitter account and then Based, which for folks at home, Based is kind of a right-wing term for like your most unvarnished self, like saying your hottest political takes.
Right. He seems very proud of himself for figuring that out.
Yeah, it's really cringe. But like since that account has been up, he's become just I think listen, there was a long trajectory. His relationship with Trump has completely changed. He's very much one of his diehard loyalists. He kind of infamously was texting former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows before January 6th, ways that he could maybe hold on to power and that they could put up alternative electors. So this man has a lot of things. But I think what I'm really struck by is like that basic humanity. Like he's older than you and me, and he goes onto the internet after hearing about 2 parents being murdered. I don't care about how they voted or their politics. A family dog killed and having to be euthanized. And your thought is like, let's dunk and see if I can get some right-wing retweets. Yeah. Like something is dark in your heart. And that is if a child did this, if there was a tragedy and they were like, I need to crap post about it, I would take the kid to therapy. First, I would discipline them and explain why it's wrong. I'd be like, you need to get into therapy. That's not a normal, human, well-adjusted reaction. And I feel like we're missing this in this moment. Like with Trump, you know what you're getting. You know he's not going to have a good reaction. You know there's going to be a lack of empathy and a lack of being presidential and how he reacts at times, oftentimes, to tragedies. But how many other people who were elected statewide to be one of 100 U.S. senators, that they have that much of a sort of loss of a moral compass right now? That scares me for the future of the country.
Yeah, it does. It's very scary. And at least there is outrage about it. Not as much from the right as you'd want to see.
Not as much.
No, but it is interesting. I mean, we've talked about it before, but the idea that Trump sort of opened the door for this kind of social media strategy for politicians, you've said it doesn't work for anyone but Trump. Yeah. Do you think that still holds true?
I think that Trump gets a pass with his supporters on virtually everything. Yeah. And I think they find a way to justify some of the more divisive things that he says. I don't think it plays as well when other people emulate it. It's not across the board, though, because to be honest, Vice President Vance has really adopted the style, and he's developed a bit of a following. And I think the fact that there's people calling out Mike Lee, but if this was 10 years ago when I worked on Capitol Hill, he would have been disciplined by Republican leadership. Right. He would have This would have been something that really drove news cycles too,
Right.
and condemnations about this. And I was working on Capitol Hill when Steve Scalise was shot at the congressional baseball practice. And several of my bosses who I worked for at the time were at the game, not harmed. One had left right before the gunman got there, Jeff Duncan. And I just remember everyone on Capitol Hill for weeks, whether you were a Republican, a Democrat, whoever you worked for, was devastated. We were rattled because this was one of our bosses, this was one of our colleagues.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really seem to break through in the same way anymore. I'm like, what changed us? I have to think that the algorithm, the need for clicks, the need for social media validation, but then also depersonalizing everything. When you're just behind a screen, you're not thinking about the humanity of these two people who were killed. You're thinking about, haha, I'm just posting and it feels distant and not a real thing. But like, man, do we have to get back to actually being human beings.
I mean, I say this as someone who uses social media every single day and enjoys it in many ways and likes looking at reels, but it really is the worst thing that's ever happened.
It really is.
It's not ever happened, but it's a really, really bad thing for society.
I honestly consider myself as a millennial so lucky that I got to grow up without social media the way we have it today. We had like instant messenger, like AIM instant messenger,
sure.
but
away
like
messages.
our passive aggressive away messages. But we didn't have to deal with this world that we live in.
No.
I'll say this on the Trump rhetoric because he's not a small part in this. He is the chief part of it. Is just because we've come to know and expect Donald Trump to have bad reactions and the wrong reactions and not be presidential and name call, that should not give individual citizens and the rest of us a pass to then behave and act like him. That's my frustration, is when people are like, yeah, but look at him. If we all just continually lower the bar because this president has chosen to, then we're just in the gutter. Nobody's uniting, as Arnold Schwarzenegger said. Nobody's solving anything. No one's doing good things for the American public and getting things done. It becomes a race to the bottom because one person's chosen to conduct themselves poorly, and then a bunch of people gave themselves permission to do the same thing.
So you remain a proponent of the when they go low, we go high?
Yeah, I'll be honest. Every day when I walk out to the table, I do try to say a quick prayer to myself, and I try to remember to choose my words wisely. I don't always do it, but I try to not name call. I try to not, if I'm going to criticize someone, I try to do it on substance and not make it personal, because I want there to be a day when that's normal. I want there to be a day when presidents put out the right statements.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're going to get there if I just join the noise and start calling names and saying horrible things about people.
When you walk out to the table, when all of you walk out to the table, I say a little prayer as well. Probably a different prayer,
Right.
but it's good.
Let me control what I can control.
Yes, exactly. It's interesting because President Trump announced his presidential run 10 years ago, if you can believe that. That's when he came down the escalator at Trump Tower and the world changed. Do you remember that moment?
Yeah. And the weird thing is I was working on Capitol Hill for some of the like Tea Party type guys who were actually the original line of defense against Trump. So at this point, it's an open primary. Open meaning there's still people in it. Rand Paul's in, Ted Cruz is in, Marco Rubio is, and Jeb Bush, at least for a little bit, was in, dropped out after South Carolina. But it was actually these like Tea Party guys who've now become some of the biggest Trump defenders and supporters who were like, we have to stop him at all costs. So I was working for a number of members of Congress who were endorsed other people and who were saying like they were very concerned and kind of fearful of this wave that propelled him to the success that he was starting to have. And I still to this day don't think that many of those guys thought that he was actually going to win. I think they thought that something was going to break, that I think they also misread the election, the electorate though. I think they thought people cared about fiscal conservatism more, like spending and debts and deficits. Turns out I don't think the public really does.
No, well, there's a little bit of a it's coming back a little bit. Thanks to Elon.
I mean, yeah. I don't think people care that much. I don't think they care as much about the character of their leaders so much as if the leader is on their team. And that's not a criticism of the public. It's just my reading of the perspective of the moment that we're in. But yeah, it's been 10 years of Donald Trump campaigning, being president, running for president.
It's almost my entire tenure at the View. It is my entire tenure at the View, actually. He was running when I started working here, so it's crazy. Yeah.
I was a few years into my career on Capitol Hill when because remember, I think people forget he soft ran of time before that and kind of got shamed out of it. He was running like the birther conspiracy and people did not take it seriously. And he ended up, not going forward with announcing and formally running. So it was kind of crazy to see that would have been, was that 2012, just in a 4-year period,
right,
how he went from that to coming back as sort of the conquering king in 2016.
Yeah, back in that era, I was working at David Letterman's show, and he was still a guest from time to time, and Dave called him out on the birther stuff and all that, but it was all kind of a joke at that time.
Exactly.
I don't think we thought he was really going to run. Or really, I don't even think the people I was around thought he was serious about running. I thought he was just looking for attention. Yeah, we were wrong. Speaking of the president, over the weekend he celebrated his birthday and also the U.S. Armed Forces birthday with a massive military parade in Washington. You were concerned it was going to be a celebration of a politician and a man. In the end, you were pleasantly surprised about how it turned out. Yeah,
and I should say, full disclosure, I didn't watch wall-to-wall coverage. I had a number of friends who attended. I think all of them are veterans. I saw they took their kids, took their wives, and I watched some of the coverage. Listen, I think that Trump probably wanted bigger crowds. He probably wanted this to be a crowd-sized moment, an America's strength moment. But I hope that, I'm not even going to project what I hope he thinks. What I actually liked about it, I thought it was a celebration of the U.S. Army and watching it back. I didn't think it was largely about Trump, at least the coverage I watched, which maybe that would be different on a different network. I liked that they went through the history of the Army. They had the World War II uniforms. Yeah. They had people representing up until, the global war on terror. And I feel strongly just because it's my generation of friends, but I had so many friends who served in Afghanistan and Iraq, and they feel forgotten because the country has come around to not really believing in those wars, not thinking we should have spent 20 plus years there, inordinate bloodshed, money, et cetera. But they still raised their hand to serve and they still deserve to be honored for it. So I actually felt like it was a good celebration of those who raised their hand to serve.
Right, who should always be honored.
And so that I appreciated. And I think if Trump wanted it to be a great celebration of the U.S. Army, he got that. If he wanted it to be a parade about him, he didn't.
Right.
Listen, the price tag is ridiculous. There's got to have been a way
hard to justify that.
To do something. And DOD, by the way, traditionally is really good at doing this without it having that exorbitant price tag. So that's a totally fair issue that I still have a problem with the ways we don't serve veterans and so many who need help that we'd spend 40 plus million on this. But
with all the cuts we're making everywhere else.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm glad that it was, at least in the coverage I saw, more about the U.S. Army than about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Before we go, on Friday, we celebrated your birthday. Happy birthday again. By helping one of your favorite causes, finding dogs their forever homes. Yes. I love that this has become your birthday signature.
It makes me so happy. It was the best birthday.
And we're happy to report that 4 of the puppies have been adopted. Storm and Gus still need homes.
Oh,
they were adorable. These were some of the best. Let me tell you, we've done this before, and sometimes the
You're saying we've had some dogs among our dogs?
I'm just saying these were high-end puppies.
I agree. These were the cutest puppies they were just amazing. Oh, I got some time with Storm, honestly. I knew that Whoopi's more of a cat person. I knew that Whoopi shouldn't go say hi to them because she would want this dog. He had that energy that would have this is the dog Whoopi, if she were ever to have one, would have.
Yeah.
And Gus was such a sweet.
They were both. So guys, you
please,
guys, come on.
If you have it in your heart, in your home to take in a best friend, I just could not recommend either of them more. The number of times that I am having a bad day or even having a good day, but having a bad day and you go home and the joy that your dogs have when they see you, they don't care about anything. They just love you. It's the most rewarding, loving relationship in my life is Herbie and Desi.
I agree. And if you need another reason, adopt the dogs, come to the show. Alyssa will take a picture with you.
Yes, absolutely.
We'll definitely do that. All right.
And thank you, Muddy Paws Rescue.
Yes, absolutely. Check the link in our episode description to find out how you can adopt the remaining pups. All right. Well, thank you for joining me today, Alyssa. Tomorrow and on Thursday, you're going to hear something special on Behind the Table. You're going to hear our special live taping of the podcast.
Ooh.
It's very exciting. It was with Alyssa, Joy, Sarah, Sunny, and a late-breaking appearance by Anna. It was a fun night, and we hope you enjoy. You can listen to it. You can see it on YouTube, all that stuff. So thank you for listening, and we will see you soon.